Great. I see a show of hands here. All right. Well, welcome. Thank you. Thank you very much for attending the session. We are really excited to be here. My name is Pete Yamasaki. I'm with Druva, and this is we've been attending AWS events around the world. This is the first AWS India event that we've attended, so we're really excited to be here. So I've got an error message in front of my presentation here. So just to let you know what I'm going to try to accomplish here, what I'd like to tell you guys, I want to tell you a little bit about Druva. I want to tell you the problems that we're trying to solve, what our products are, how we built them on AWS, and what our vision as a company is. And our products don't have errors like that. So, digital transformation. Buzzword in the industry, we've all heard it. Where does it really start? Digital transformation starts from data transformation. It's all about data. And the first step to that digital transformation is getting that data into the cloud, moving it off those legacy silos, moving it off that hardware, and getting it into an environment, into an architecture that you can utilize it for things like big data that was talked about in the last presentation, for governance, for visibility, for whatever your company wants to do. Take it off those legacy systems and get it into something where you can start utilizing that data. So as part of this data transformation, we're seeing an explosion in data. Data's coming out of those silos, which were just desktops, data centers, and it's moving into the cloud. And it's being driven by connected apps. Things like mobility and devices, the move to SaaS, big data, and analytics. And IDC estimates that by 2020, there's going to be 40 zettabytes of enterprise data to be managed. So we just did a study with Forrester, and in that Forrester study, what we found is that 54% of the enterprises worldwide had a petabyte or more worth of data that they needed to manage. That data was doubling every 24 months. And out of those companies, for 76% of those companies, when they had an error, when they had a loss, they had a case where they weren't able to get that data back. So even though we have this data explosion, people are not successful getting the data back, even if they have a solution in place. And further complicating this situation is that data used to be in one place. It used to be in a data center. You had one place to worry about it, one place that you had to manage that. But today, 50% of that data is outside of the organization. And what do I mean by that? So it's in places like endpoints and laptops, things that people are carrying outside of the office, losing, breaking. Branch offices. Companies are global today. They don't just keep one data center, they're getting that data out into the field, closer to the users, closer to where it's being used. So now you have servers in those branch offices, or if you're in retail, you have services operating the store. So now you have this distribution of data. And then people are starting to use cloud applications. Show of hands here. How many people here use Office 365 or Google Suite? All right, more than half the room. Right, and this transformation probably just happened in the last 2 years. So a lot of people now have a lot of the data that their employees are working out in the cloud. So how do you protect that? And then things like public cloud. Why are we all here? We're here to learn about AWS. People are building applications on AWS's infrastructure as a service and their platform as a service. So now you have to start worrying about protecting this data in all of these locations. So this area of impact is only getting larger. So let's look at the legacy approach. How did we formally deal with data protection? So if we look at things like endpoints and traditional servers that you are protecting, there's this rule called the 3-2-1 backup rule. And what did this rule say? It said, well, I need to keep at least 3 copies of my data on 2 different pieces of media, and at least one of those copies needs to be kept off-site. So this architecture looks something like this. I had my backup software, I had some sort of hardware, my backup server, I had some storage, and then for my secondaries, I went off to tapes, and then I had to offsite those tapes. Pretty complicated. And then if I want to do DR, I need to make a replicated architecture off-site, put a copy off-site, be ready for that DR. And now everybody's talking about cloud. And even some of these traditional players are bringing in a cloud solution. They're saying, sure, you can archive off the cloud, but you're not fundamentally doing that. You're just moving from tape to cloud. So this is sort of what we call cloud washing. It's not scalable. These architectures were not built for cloud. It may seem cheap at first, but as you start creating these frequent full copies of data and pushing it off site, number one, is it practical to move that across a network? Number two, how much storage is that going to take? And the cost of that storage is only going to increase. And look at all the components in this solution. Extremely complicated. And what Druva's story is we want to eliminate this complexity. We want to eliminate this architecture. And this is essentially what Druva is we're rewriting how you do data protection and data governance. So Druva built a cloud platform. We actually worked with AWS. Starting in 2011, we launched this in 2013, and we rewrote our application to be cloud native, and I'll talk about that in a bit. But today, it's as simple as a SaaS application. When customers purchase Druva licenses, they don't have to be AWS experts. They don't have to understand the cloud. They log into a GUI. They set their policies. They deploy the agents to their devices, their laptops, or their servers, and it backs up directly to the cloud. And we have technology that deduplicates that data globally to reduce the load on the network, making it practical. We've got customers in oil and gas out in the field with 5, 10 megabits per second of connectivity, no issue doing the backup. So the idea is we've built this cloud platform that greatly simplifies how you do data protection. And we also built this, as I said, on AWS. And this is when people ask, how is Druva different than the legacy players? This is how we're different. We're not just taking our software and hosting it on a VM. We rewrote our architecture onto AWS's platform using things like EC2, DynamoDB, S3, Glacier, and a dozen more services. So this is truly a cloud-native architecture built on AWS. So in fact, today, Druva is the only cloud-native SaaS storage product built on AWS. There are other products that say they're cloud, but they're just hosting in a VM. They're not scalable. You need to set up new instances. And this is a product we launched in 2013, which greatly simplifies that for our customers. So let's talk about this platform in a little bit more detail. What does this platform do? Number one, we protect endpoints, or we call this end user data. This could be your laptops, your desktops, your phones, and your tablets, backing that up directly to the cloud. Cloud applications, things like Office 365, your Exchange email, your OneDrive, your SharePoint, or Google Suite if you use Google Suite, Box, Salesforce, and we'll be adding to this list. And then the data center. This will be your traditional data center. Your file servers, your NAS appliances, some of your applications could be your databases as well too. So we allow you to back this up directly to cloud. And where this is incredibly powerful are those cases where that data is distributed, where you don't have just one data center, you have lots of offices. And do you really want to set up that hardware and manage this infrastructure in so many offices? With this, you manage all your global data, not only your India data, but your global data through a single pane of glass, which works great for global organizations and virtual machines as well too. And lastly, for companies that are moving to infrastructure as a service and platform as a service, many of you here are probably building your applications on that, is we give the ability to also manage that using the same tools, helping you manage those snapshots or managing your platform applications, your applications that are built on the platform in the same way that you would be managing your servers, giving you that snapshot management, giving you that ability to manage the life cycle of that data. So we talked about data protection. And at first and foremost, that's where our customers start. They want to protect their data against loss, against mistakes, against things like ransomware or other malware threats. But because we're built in the cloud and we have this elastic compute, we can allow companies to do a lot more with their data. So in addition to data protection, it's also data governance. Companies who have to worry about pulling data back for auditing, for doing e-discovery for legal purposes. Imagine a traditional architecture when you're pushing things off the tape and you decide, I want to go get this data off this tape. How long does it take? You got to go call your company, get the tape back, find the data, pull it off. Every job could be days of work, where with Druva, the whole operation can be done with about 1 minute of an IT admin's time. And then e-discovery. We integrate into e-discovery tools, allowing people to search on that data, analyze that data for internal purposes and for legal purposes. And then even going further beyond this, and where we're really going with this platform is going to be data intelligence, getting into machine learning and analytics. So our goal with this architecture is to allow companies to do a lot more with their data. We don't want this data to be in silos. This is not just a backup solution. We're bringing the data in and protecting it, but beyond that, we're letting companies do more with this data. So this is really the vision of Druva. Many of you might be Druva users. The first two parts, we call one of our first product that we brought to market is called InSync. And that was around end user data. Your endpoints and your cloud applications, the data that your end users, your employees were working with. Phoenix was around server data. And we've recently announced a product called Apollo, which is for protecting your cloud applications that are built on infrastructure as a service and platform as a service. And all of these come together under a single platform, which is the Druva Cloud Platform. So through a single pane of glass, you're able to see your endpoint data, your cloud application data, your server data, and then your servers in the cloud. So we want to give you a unified view of that, so you don't have to go to separate applications to manage each of those entities. So a little bit about Druva. We were born in the cloud, and we're also born in India. The company started in Pune. We are headquartered in Silicon Valley today. We're not a small company. We have over 4,000 enterprise customers worldwide using these products. And 400 of those are in India itself. We have over 100 petabytes of data under management, and we're a top 5 Amazon storage partner. So let's talk about a few use cases here. So a couple of the use cases, one is going to be Pfizer. Pfizer, everybody knows, it's a global pharmaceutical company. Today they have 100,000 of their employees protected by Druva worldwide. And they use the global footprint that we have. So through a single pane of glass, they're able to manage their users in the US, in EMEA, in India, and in Asia, the rest of Asia as well too. And it does this all through a single instance. They don't have to worry about scaling out servers. They don't have to worry about the compliance in different regions of the world. It transformed the way that they operate their data protection. Self-service restores. It brought down their cost of IT for operating this by more than twofold, because now instead of users always having going to the help desk to get the restores, users can do their restores on their own. Automated system migrations. Beyond this, we help them with all their migrations, moving from Windows 8 to Windows 10, which, as you know, can be a big endeavor. And when you have over 100,000 clients that you have to use, we can greatly simplify that as well too. As well as legal holds. One-step legal holds. They're in the pharmaceutical industry. They have data that they need to collect for legal purposes, for patent purposes, and we make that very easy for them to do. An India company, Tata Global Beverages, is also a Druva customer. Today they're focused on, number one, data protection. So all of their global employees are protected by Druva today. Protected against data loss, protected against ransomware, and also for legal purposes. Because they're a global entity dealing with Europe and various geographies, they also need to collect that data. And we greatly simplified that because we allowed them, through one central IT team, to be able to collect all that data through a very simple process.